Alright, this is the assembly of your Pinewood Derby car. Last step in the process. Everybody received a Pinewood Derby block. Your Pinewood Derby block that received already had drilled holes in it. Then it was up to you guys to put weight in this car and get it up to the right weight. So first thing you could do is, first you find the weight you're going to use. You can use the brass rounds that were supplied in your kit. There's tungsten cubes, tungsten rounds, pennies, all kinds of fishing weights and stuff like that that you can use to weigh this car down. We went ahead and showed an example of using these brass cylinders. How we did it is we took a 3/8 inch drill bit, took a hand drill, and we drilled some holes in here. They can be kind of rough. You got to be a little bit, a steady hand to get it to go all the way through. But we drilled holes in it. We took a saw then and cut some of a car profile on it. Gave it a quick sand. And now we need to make sure we put enough weight into it to get the up to 5 ounces. So we took these brass cylinders and we put them in the car. Dax will do that for us. So we fill it up, and we can always adjust the weight by putting a little less brass cylinders in there, or we can drill them out a little bit or add a little bit. But right now we're just kind of checking to make sure we're close. So what we'll do is we'll weigh it with the cylinders in it and the wheels and the axles. So we turn on our scale, and you can use a scale that's at I know there's ones at the post office, or we have some pack scales too that we can borrow if you want to use those. Put on the 4 wheels, the car, and the 4 axles, and we want to see that we're there. We go. Yep. So we're under the 5 ounces. We may even on this example here have to take a little bit out because when we putty and paint this, it'll go up a little bit, but we're definitely under the 5 ounces, so we're good with this body. Here's another example. So after we get good with the body, we would putty over the holes, we paint it, put our own flair on it, much like this car was done when my older sons did it a few years back. And this was right before assembly, so it was 4.930. So this car would be ready for assembly after we painted it. Up to this point, we've already talked about wheels. We've already polished the wheel bores using the Q-tip stems. So here's 4 wheels that are all done. Here's 4 axles that are all done. And then we're just going to use this car as an example. So in this car, pretend it's all done, painted, ready to go. So we'll start the final assembly. How I would do it is I would take a wheel and one of your rear axles, not the one with the steering axle. Put the axle in there, make sure it's all clean, put the axle in there. Take some graphite, Hobby Lube, it's a good one that's found at a lot of craft stores around here. Put some graphite right down there in the bore. Kind of tap it in and spin it. Maybe spin it, have your scout spin it for a minute or so. Dax, you want to hold this axle head here, there, and spin the wheel. So you can have him do it. And do this outside or in the garage or something, because this graphite getting all over carpet's not good. Mom won't like it. So then we could add a little bit more in here. Kind of tap it into that wheel bore, and Dax is going to spin it. So we'll do that for all 4 wheels, even the one with the bent axle for the steering wheel. So all 4 of these wheels, we inserted the axles, we put graphite on them, and we spun them. You want to get a nice coating of graphite in there, but you don't want a whole bunch of graphite falling out. It makes it slower. You just want it kind of worked into the wheel bore. After you get all 4 done, one of them is going to be that one with that bent axle. This one, that's that steering one, so you put that to the side. Now we have 3 axles here and wheel combinations. So take the 2 that seem to spin the best and the quietest. So if one seems to be a little bit more maybe shaky or spins worse, we're going to put that aside. We're going to use that as our lifted wheel. So we have our car with weight, it's painted and puttied. Of course this one isn't, but pretend it is. And we're going to install first our rear axles. So we'll take a rear axle, put it in the hole. Dax is going to take, you can use a credit card, you can use even a business card, about that thickness, and you're going to push it up on there so that you get a little bit of spacing. Alright, pull it out, Dax. Now if you notice, you get a little bit of spacing there. If it's too tight against the body, obviously it's going to stop it from rotating and the car will be slower. So we're going to do that to both rear axles. Alright. Dax will pull it out. Yeah, it's perfect, isn't it? So those are the 2 rear axles. They're all graphited up, ready to go. We're going to take our steering axle, do the same thing.
Do I put this up?
Yep.
Okay, then.
The axle, put the card in, we'll get about the same gap. Alright, thank you. And now the lifted. Really doesn't matter. I would push it in all the way and just have it not move at all. There's no reason for it to move. If you look at it, I put it down here, this is lifted, it's not even touching. If I made it spin, okay, I could sit here and spin it all day long. It's not touching anything, you don't ever have to do anything. You go right on 3 wheels. So what we have here, so we have 2 rear wheels that are canted at 3 degrees. Remember we drilled that, so they're canted at 3 degrees, so they're riding on this little edge. Right front wheel, lifted. Go ahead and push it in so it doesn't even move, it's fine. And then the left front wheel is our steering wheel. It's bent so that when we turn the axle, it's going to make the car steer left or right. And we're going to show you that right now. So I just pushed it in, me and Dax, we kind of set it so I know it's going the right way. If you look at the steering wheel, you want it in there so that it's at this angle. It's actually called a positive cant. Negative cant is what your rears are. Positive cant is what your front one is. So we have it in there in a general location that we like it. Now Dax, you guys all have one of these charts. Just tape it to a table and lift up the table a little bit so you have a little slope. Dax will set it up so your front wheel goes on the little mark and your back wheel is straight behind. You can kind of line up the body there and make sure you're straight. And then he's just going to let it go. Now if you watch it, so I'll stop it up here. So this one is, we call it drift. It's moving 5 inches in this 4 foot. Now that probably will be, now I think honestly that would probably still be a fast car. It's better to have more drift than less. So, but I would try to get it more along up to that 4-inch mark. So we got 5. So what we do is that same bended axle that you installed in here that you adjust the steering with has a regular screwdriver notch in it. So take a little regular screwdriver or some sort of little thin bladey thing and you're going to move it just barely. If you move it a lot, I'll show you what happened, but let's say I move it a lot. I mean, that was like a 1/16 of a turn. Dax will set it up again here. Whenever he's ready, let it go. Now I moved that quite a bit. I came from all the way at 5 inches, I'm down at 1/2 inch now. So I moved that quite a bit. So I need to now make it turn more. So same thing. Oh, I'm going to turn it back the other direction. And these are just little minute, I'm going to turn it just a teeny bit. It's just not much at all. Dax is going to do it again. Line it up when you're ready, Dax. Go ahead and let it go. Alright, let it go. Oop, we're getting close. 2 inches. Tad bit more. A little bit more of a turn. Go ahead, Dax.
Just a tad bit.
Boom. So that one turned it, and we're about 3 3/4 and 4 foot. I would say that is perfect. So that car is now dialed in. It is ready to race. I wouldn't change it at all. I would leave it right there. Now coming up to race day, I would go ahead and maybe that night before add a little bit of graphite here to this outer hub, kind of tap it, spin it a little bit. Have your Scout do that to all the 4 wheels. Tap. Once again, don't do it on your carpet in the living room. That won't be good. You have to do it to the 3 wheels. Dominant front wheel, steering wheel, and the 2 back ones. Lifted one, you don't obviously have to do anything to it. It's never going to do anything. Keep the car, in a dry place, maybe in a shoebox or something like that until race day. You're going to call a reaction out to race day. It'll check-in day. You're going to check in your car. Then after the race, play with it all you want. That is the assembly of your car. Thanks.
Yeah.